We are back at it again. And today's video, we're going to go over some of these online internet marketing gurus and break them down from not bullshit to people who are complete bullshit, people who I don't believe in. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because I have fallen victims to a lot of scams. I've spent easily over $200,000 on my own personal development, some of them coaches and gurus in the business space. And to be quite honest, I would probably say only about 25% of that information was actually helpful in terms of me making more money. And I would be a lot richer had I not spent all that money on the other one. So breaking them down from bad to good, people who know what the fuck they're talking about and people who do not know what they're talking about. And let's start it off with none other than Andrew Tate. He has become very, very popular in the online money-making space and also just becoming the most popular man in the world, so much so that everything he was saying was having such a high impact that social media decided to just completely ban him, quote unquote. And I'll actually be making a video on this because it's not what it actually seems like. This is part of a bigger marketing plan that he has. So would I buy his course? Personally, for me, I would not buy his course. However, looking at what he's doing in terms of how he's marketing himself, how he's pushing his image, how he's pushing his message, how he's constantly getting other people to share his information, how he's creating controversy, it's really, really helpful. And I think that as a marketer, he is single-handedly the best marketer on the planet. You should be learning from him in terms of just seeing what he's doing. I don't think that his course on how to make money is actually useful. And I've seen a lot of people break it down. Basically, you get in this course, he's not actually teaching much inside of the course. He's just hired and outsourced some coaches in simple spaces like copywriting, Amazon FBA, Shopify, and all of these different guru-like opportunities. And so this whole image that he puts on that I've made my money, through business is from businesses that have nothing to do with what he's promoting on how to make money. He has never built a copywriting business. He has never built an Amazon FBA business. This is a guy who built most of his wealth building a casino, building a sex cam website. So I just don't think that his course would necessarily be good, but I am going to listen to him as a business person. I think his philosophies around business and how to do business and how to actually make money as a whole general philosophy is very useful. And I think he knows exactly what he's doing in terms of marketing. Next up, we have another popular figure, Alex Hormozi. Now, this guru doesn't have a course, okay? And this is why I would actually buy their course. The reason why being is because I actually read his book, $100 million Offers. Not only has he built a business to over $100 million in the non-guru space, okay, he was actually providing a service, but he's also done it for people in person. He's built multiple businesses before in the past that have nothing to do with how to make money online, okay? So that's one. You want to make sure that anybody that you're listening to has actually built a business outside of how to make money business. Two, he's not selling anything. He's just giving pure value. Oftentimes, some of his videos and the things that he puts out online and even his book are more than masterminds that I've paid for. I've paid for masterminds that have cost upwards to $14,000 that have given me less than his book and his online content has. And just for that reason of the fact that he provides so much free value, he doesn't need my money because he's built businesses outside of the online money-making space, instantly makes him an authority on how to make money. And I completely trust him. And his advice is just really freaking good. He knows what he's talking about. So I would 100% buy a course if he was to put it, but all of his courses are free. So you don't even have to buy it. Next up, super popular figure, Gary Vee. Okay. I have a hard time with this one. He's not complete shit. he's not mid, but I wouldn't put him as good or buy his course. I'll put him right in the middle. And here's why. Sometimes he says stuff that's really good and applicable. Okay. Sometimes he says stuff around marketing and creating content that is really good. Just create content, like it's awesome. He's got a good message. He pushes people to take action. And sometimes his stuff is really good. Other times he gives terrible fucking advice. Terrible advice. He's telling these kids who are essentially on the verge of going to college and getting a career and all of these things to not do it. It's like, don't go to fucking school. And that is bad advice. Okay. Sure. A lot of people who start a business will be able to get to where they want to go in terms of making a ton of money. Majority of people do not, because they aren't willing to sacrifice the hours. They aren't willing to sacrifice the hard work. They aren't willing to sacrifice their own finances and go broke and invest into mentors who also know what they're doing to be able to create a business. Most people who have, who are in a higher income bracket have gone to college. That is a real statistic. So this whole idea of don't go to school, don't go to college is bullshit. I honestly wish that I did go to college and I didn't drop out. Now, could I go back now? Of course I can. But fortunately, I did build a business that served me very, very well. So I don't necessarily need to do it. But at the same time, I think it's terrible advice to give to young kids to not go to school, to fuck their parents, as he says, and just go completely against what is going to set you up financially for success. If you go to school, you get a job, you make a ton of money, you can then use that capital from making that money to start your own business later on. And you're going to have a lot more leeway to be able to do so. So I hate his advice, but I also love some of his advice. So I'm going to put him right in the middle, where he belongs. I would not buy any of his courses or his books and stuff. And I think sometimes he just talks too fucking much. So I feel iffy about Gary Vee, but he obviously knows what he's doing in terms of marketing and creating a brand and creating an image. So in terms of those pieces of advice, I would follow him. Alex Becker, I don't know too much about him, but from the image that he puts out, I would not buy his course just because I don't feel like he has much personality in terms of the way that he actually markets himself. He's very bland, and whoever courses I buy, I want to make sure that I'm also I feel aligned, that they know how to build a really big brand. Now, of course, a lot of people follow Alex Becker because he gives a ton of value. And I think he's very straight to the point in terms of giving a ton of value. So probably for that reason, he has good advice, but I haven't listened to too much of his stuff. So I can't really speak on him. Grant Cardone, I'm also going to put him in the middle because, again, similar to Gary Vee, sometimes he gives great advice and sometimes he gives terrible fucking advice, such as, he rents where he lives because he wants to have autonomy, and he buys where he rents out to people. I don't think that's necessarily good advice for the majority of people. Okay. If you want to be like Gary Vee and have, a billion, or you want to be like Grant Cardone and become a billionaire, then sure, that might be decent advice. But I think for the majority of people who are following him, who are not at that level and who will never be at that level, that is terrible advice to give. And of course, he's talking from the perspective of himself. So you should take everything that he says with a grain of salt. I also think some of his sales training, I've been through a lot of his sales training before in the past. I've bought pretty much every course and every book he has. It's very repetitive, and I don't think it's actually even helpful in terms of doing sales. Some of it is, some of it isn't. So for that reason, I'm going to put him directly in the middle. Next up, we have this charlatan, Dan Lok. Terrible fucking sales advice. Okay, terrible. I've had a bunch of people who've gone through his scam programs trying to do sales for me. And when I hop on calls with them to do the role play, they are horrible at sales because this guy does not know anything about actually phone closing and sales. As a marketer, he's a good marketer. He knows how to build a YouTube channel. He knows how to brand himself. He knows how to really push that image out. But he has been exposed over and over again for lying. He has been exposed for, pretty much giving people guarantees that they're going to make money and then having zero people in his programs make money. I would follow CoffeeZilla on this. He extensively went through a lot of his stuff, interviewed a lot of his previous students. I think he's a huge scammer. I don't think anybody should listen to him or buy any of his programs. So for that reason, he goes at the very bottom, shame list. Okay, I'm going to call that the shame list at the very bottom. Next up, we have another charlatan, Kevin. David, I believe his name is. He goes also in the shame list. He blatantly copies and pastes his content on his YouTube channel. He has stolen content from multiple creators, like word for word. So clearly he's someone who does not actually have the authority. He just copies authority from other people. I also know people who've gone through his programs that he guarantees stuff, and his programs are essentially copy paste things that you can learn online from Google for absolutely for free. And most of the people who go through his programs do not succeed. So, and he's been also outed out for literally, editing testimonials and making fake testimonials. So I would not follow him. But of course, he knows how to build a brand, again, just like Dan Lok. And a lot of these people are just copy pasting their information. Tony Robbins. I have bought his courses. I have gone through his seminars. Would I buy again? Yeah, maybe. I think it's a fun experience. Okay, with Tony Robbins, I would take everything he says with a grain of salt. I have gone through a lot of his different programs and certification stuff, and I've done his in-person seminars, and they were a great time. It was like one big sober party. You feel absolutely phenomenal after for like a week. Could you get the same effects just doing shrooms or something? Probably. So I would buy his courses again. I would buy his personal in-person experiences again, but just for the sake of getting a refresher on some of his stuff, just for the sake of literally partying for 2-3 days, completely sober and meeting like-minded people, but not so much for personal growth in life. I've gone through his stuff, and I don't think that they're very permanent. I think he puts out his solutions that he creates permanent change in people. And maybe if you work one-on-one with him for $1 million, maybe he does do that. But I don't think his programs create that much of a permanent change. I think for the right person, they might create permanent change. Like if someone is absolutely depressed and goes to one of his seminars, it might get them out of their depression enough so that they create enough momentum in their life that they completely remove their depression. However, I don't think that is the case for the majority of people. And so would I buy his courses again? Yes, but it's for the sole purpose of, just having fun and networking. So for the majority of people, I would put him as A. I think he has great information. I think a lot of his stuff is useful. I would take it with a grain of salt, of course. Try it out. If it works for you, it works. If it doesn't, then I would move on. All right. Next up, we have Tai Lopez. I have gone through a lot of Tai's programs. Would I buy it again? No. In the time that I was going through his programs, I was just getting started on building my business. He wasn't really popular, so I actually messaged him and he was replying back to people. It was a very intimate experience. So I bought a lot of his programs. I've also met him in person. He's a great person. He is clearly very knowledgeable in terms of internet marketing. He's very knowledgeable in terms of just general business advice, general life advice. However, I think all of his content and his programs has been very watered down. When he first started, he had this program called 67 Steps, and I think it was a great program. But now that I'm looking back on it, it was pretty general knowledge. He just used a lot of fancy words in the videos and created 30-minute modules that made you think that you're learning a lot, but you're not. a lot of those lessons didn't really stick with me. It was general knowledge that you could probably read in a 1 minute, 2 minute of skimming a book, which he does all the time, and he calls it reading one book a day. Would I buy his stuff again? Probably not. I think a lot of his courses are also watered down. Like I mentioned, he hires and outsources other people to teach it. And when you hire and outsource other people to teach your stuff, they're not as bought in to making the best program possible. They're just going to give you as much information. It's not very meticulously planned. And so for that reason, I probably wouldn't buy his stuff. I would take his information with a grain of salt. Some of it is good. Some of it is just general knowledge, or just he likes his own voice and he talks a lot similar to Gary Vee. So he goes right in the middle for me. Next up, we have Jordan Belfort. He also goes directly in the middle for me. Some good information, some bad information, some outdated information. Actually, I'll probably put him in here because there is better options for learning sales in today's day and age. And I also think there's better options in terms of people who are doing ethical business. Now, is his business unethical? Probably not. I haven't been through any of his programs, but I've always learned that when people showcase a certain behavior, they're very likely to repeat it. And so to come out and say, oh, I've changed, I don't do all of this stuff anymore, I just don't buy it. Maybe this is my own human fallacy of not trusting someone who has shown to be untrustworthy. But I just don't buy his information. And I think there's better salespeople out there who can teach you better information. Next up, we have Tim Ferriss. Would I buy his stuff? 100%. I love his books. I think it's full of information. I don't think he's out there to just sell a bunch of courses and stuff. Of course, he does a lot of affiliate deals. Do I think a lot of those affiliate deals are good? Yes, some of them are probably crappy though, and he gets paid a ton to just push out the product. But in terms of his information, I think he has a lot of life experience. He's built businesses. He's done really well. And similar to Alex Hormozi, he's trying to share as much value as possible. So this is it for the tier list. These people at the bottom, I have no idea who they are, so I'm not going to speak on them. Of course, there's a lot more gurus out there. I will make another tier list on different gurus. This was just one that was on this website, so I decided to do it. If you have any other gurus that you want me to cover, just comment it down below, okay? And I will make a completely new tier list with those gurus, but this is where these gurus stand. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, make sure to click that subscribe button, and we will talk soon.